Sorry about that. Forgot my microphone. And I'm realizing over the last couple of ones that YouTube doesn't start recording right away. So I had to give it a little bit of time. So now let's get started. Happy Monday. Welcome, welcome. Our first week back to normal. Past couple weeks, I'm sure, as with a lot of you, have been a little bit crazy. We don't personally celebrate the worldly holidays, but my husband had time off. So that kind of, it was fabulous having him home, so many days in a row. We got a lot accomplished, got a lot of resting in, and, but I'm ready to get things started. And happy Gregorian calendar New Year 2025. I get a feeling it's going to be a really interesting ride. So I hope everyone's prepared physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, mainly spiritually. And that's what we are doing here. We are preparing. We are filling our vessels with oil, with the living word, so that we are prepared for what's coming. So my name's Lanita. I am the Scrappy Grandma. And this is our Torah Portions playlist. I've got hopefully some really good plans for this channel in this new year, new Gregorian year, not a biblical calendar, but our Roman Greco calendar. So New Year's will be in the spring with Passover and all the spring feasts that are coming. But anyway, so this is week 12, and it is Vayechi, Vayechi, and the meaning is he lived. And this is the last portion of Bereshit. Genesis. It's the last portion, and then we move into Exodus. So the scriptures are Genesis 47, 28 through 50, 26. The Haftorah, the prophets, is 1 Kings 2, 1 through 12. Then there's a few Gospels. Luke 4, 31 through 5:11, Acts 7, 15 through 16, Hebrews 11, 21 through and 22, 1 Peter 1, 3 through 9, and 1 Peter 2, 11 through 17. And for those that are reading and keeping up in the extra biblical texts, Jubilees, and I always want to give the disclaimer with the extra biblical text. One, I view them as historical documents that Yeshua and the disciples, Jasher is mentioned, although somebody just told me that it's not the same Jasher, so I have to do some research there. But Jasher is mentioned in the word. And so anyway, I've got Jasher's Jubilee and Josephus. Now, Josephus definitely is a historical document that spans, and it's more of a difficult read, but I'm learning so much from it, and it's so fascinating, and it spans from the beginning, even through Jesus's time, Yeshua's time. So I'm looking forward to reading more than just the Torah portions. But so we have, and also disclaimer with the extra biblical. So I don't count them the same as scripture. But they do add, I don't know, I always kind of say it's like they add missing pieces, and they like take the word and paint it in color. They add a lot of things. Some of them are wild and far-fetched, so I'm like, I don't know. But some of them are really fascinating and actually help to like, oh, I've had questions about that scripture, for forever. And it's nice to kind of get an idea of what possibly could be going on at that time. So anyway, so Jubilees also, and that because there's lots of different stories going on in there, they may not always perfectly line up with the Torah portions. So I do as close as I can. And so we've got Jubilees 45:13 through 46:15, Jasher 56:1 through 59:28, and Josephus is book 2, chapter 8, 194. This one's done differently than all the others. And it goes through book 2, chapter 8 to 200. So that's book 2. So those are those. You can pause it and look, bookmark them, look them up, whatever. And then I am going to start with prayer. Father God, Abba Father, you are so good to us. You are such an amazing provider, and that you've provided everything we need to know you better and to know your character written through your word. And I just thank you so much that we have access to so many different versions and translations and historical books and YouTube, to where we can dig through things like buried treasure. And thank you for taking us on this treasure hunt to seek and knock and ask. And you have promised that you will open and answer, and we will find you when we seek for you with our whole hearts. And Father, I just pray for everyone that listens to this recording, that you make a change in their heart. Give them a passion for your word. Give them a passion to dig out your truths and to go on this treasure hunt to learn more about you and your ways, so that we can walk in covenant and obedience to you, and that we can know the signs of the times, because they're all written here in the prophecies of when the coming of Messiah, when we are to look for the coming of Messiah. Bless everyone who's listening today, and just cause your word to grow, cause them to grow deeper and deeper in your word and covenant with you. In your son's, Yeshua's holy name. Amen. So I've been reading some things also about the whole name thing, and about his true name. And no one will ever, because the vowels, it's Yod He Vav He. Those are the Hebrew letters, Y, Yod He, YHVH, or it could be YHWH, Yod He, I do V, Vav. Those are the Hebrew letters that we have recording of. The Tetragrammaton, I think it's a big rabbit hole. It's a big thing to research, and they've added the vowels of Adonai. So I don't know. It's way over my head. Way over my head. So currently I am using the name Yahuwah, but boy, some are really coming against that's not Yahuwah and Yeshua or Yahusha for Jesus. So eyes are itchy. And until he leads me into a deeper truth and understanding, that's what it's going to be. I trust him to give me the true name. So anyway, let's get started in the commentary, kind of set the stage for what we're going to be reading, A Year Through Torah, and it's a week-by-week journey for Christians. And this is week 12, Vayechi. Or that's the best I know how to pronounce it. So in last week's Parsha, Vayechi, Joseph continued to test his brothers to see if they were indeed different people from the ones who had cast him into the pit. And after Yehuda offered to take the place of Benjamin as a slave, however, Joseph was convinced of their repentance and finally revealed his identity to them. With the sons of Israel finally reunited, the two sticks, which is the Haftorah. Well, it was Haftorah of last week. The two sticks coming together. Joseph then brought his father Jacob to dwell in the fat of the land in Egypt, where Yahuwah, YHWH, God or Lord in some Bibles, had promised to make them into a great nation. This final portion of Bereshit, of Genesis, the book of Genesis, begins 17 years after Jacob's arrival in Egypt, when he was 147 years old. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the days of Jacob, the years of his life, were 147 years. And that's the meaning of this portion. He lived. Knowing that he was nearing his last days on earth, Jacob sent for Joseph and asked him to take an oath that he would bury him in the cave of Machpelah, thought by the sages to be the resting place of Adam and Eve, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, and Leah, rather than being buried in Egypt. Sometime later, Joseph was told that Jacob was ill and went to visit him, bringing his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, with him. Jacob then declared that the two boys would be counted as his own sons, as Reuben and Simeon. They shall be to me, i.e., as Jacob's first two sons. So by doing so, Joseph was given the double portion of blessing that effectively removed the status of the firstborn from Reuben. And Reuben lost the firstborn status because he slept with Bilhah, his father's concubine, so that there would be no more sons accounted to Rachel, and that so that Leah would be the prominent wife, from what I've understood in my reading. So Joseph then brought his sons to Jacob's bedside to receive the blessing, with Ephraim to Jacob's left and Manasseh, the firstborn, to his right. But Jacob crossed his arms and laid his right hand upon Ephraim and his left upon Manasseh. Joseph thought that his father did not realize that the older son was to his right, but Jacob reassured him that he knew what he was doing and prophesied that through both sons would be great. Ephraim would be greater, and said, his seed shall become a multitude of nations, the Gentiles, the 70 nations. So or the lost tribes in all the different nations, because they've all commingled. Once they were dispersed, the 10 tribes, that he pretty much was figurehead, I guess. Once they were dispersed into the world, and then they lost their identity, just like it was prophesied, and they assimilated into other cultures, and became part of those cultures, and married and had children with those other cultures. So they became the multitude of nations. So he blessed them, saying, but you, Israel, will pronounce blessing, saying, Yahuwah make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh, and thus put Ephraim before Manasseh. Moreover, as the chosen firstborn of Israel, Joseph was given an extra portion in the promised land, namely Jacob's hometown of Shechem near Hebron, where Joseph's bones were eventually buried. See Joshua 24:32. Sensing his impending death, Jacob next called his sons to his bedside and blessed each one of them in Genesis 49:28. He also prophesied about each tribe in the end of days, which I believe we are entering or are in. So Reuben, the firstborn status, was revoked for his interference in Jacob's marital life. Despised being the firstborn, he was not the leader of Israel. Simeon, rebuked for the massacre of Shechem. Simeon will be scattered in Israel. The tribe ended up absorbed in Judah. Okay, so Simeon was absorbed into Judah, and he also will not be leader of Israel. Levi, rebuked for the massacre of Shechem, will be scattered in Israel. The tribe of Levi ended up in the cities of refuge. That we'll be reading about those coming up. So they were the priests in the city of refuge, all throughout the land, and he also will not be leader of Israel. Judah will be praised by all Israel. The kings of Israel will come from him, and from Judah, the Mashiach, Shiloh, Messiah, Jesus, Yeshua, would eventually come. Dan shall produce great judges and promote justice in Israel. Naphtali shall produce beauty and praises in Israel. Gad shall produce victorious warriors of Israel. Asher shall be prosperous and full of olive oil. Issachar shall persevere like a beast of burden. Zebulun shall be prosperous prosperous seafaring merchants. So they travel out. Joseph shall be blessed with fertility and prosperity, and Benjamin shall produce victorious warriors of Israel. After giving these parting words to his sons, Jacob then said he was about to die, and again commanded them that he was to be buried in the land of Canaan in the cave of Machpelah, that his grandfather Abraham had purchased from Ephraim the Hittite, and where he had buried Leah. When he finished with these final instructions, he died. Joseph fell on Jacob's neck and wept, then ordered the Egyptian physicians to embalm his father. And the Egyptians mourned for Jacob for 70 days. The great Jewish sage Rashi states that upon Jacob's arrival in Egypt, the famine in Egypt ceased because of his merit, and this was the reason the Egyptians mourned his death. When rabbis or sages say something, I take it with a grain of salt, because it's just man's ideas, interpretations. With Pharaoh's permission, Joseph, along with his brothers and various dignitaries in Egypt, formed a funeral procession and returned to Canaan to bury Jacob in Hebron. After the funeral, they returned to Egypt, but Joseph's brothers feared that he would now punish them for their former betrayal, and they therefore threw themselves on his mercy. And Joseph reassured them, however, and promised to support them in the days to come. The Parsha and the book of Bereshith end with the account of the death of Joseph, who made the sons of Israel promise to take his bones with them when YHWH would bring them back to the land of Canaan, alluding to the great exodus to come. Joseph's faith in the Hebrew people's return to the promised land is summarized by his statement: Yahuwah will surely remember you. He died at the age of 110, was embalmed, and placed in a coffin in Egypt, full of faith that he would be raised from the dead in the land promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Interesting. Right. So, 47:28, here we go. And Jacob. So I'll pronounce their Hebrew name, but I'll also pronounce their English name, because I know I've had actually a few comments from people letting me know that it's really helpful to be able to follow along, especially if you're not reading a Bible that has the restored names of their true names. And so I will, as I remember, I will translate them into English. And Jacob lived in the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt, 17 years. So the length of Jacob's life was 147 years. And the time for Israel, Jacob, Israel. It's so interesting how his name's used so interchangeably. To die, drew near, and he called his son Joseph, and said to him, "Now, if I have found favor in your eyes, please put your hand under my thigh and show loving commitment and truth to me." Remember, putting the hand under the thigh was basically swearing an oath. And if we remember, Abraham had Eliezer do that when he went to find Isaac's wife. So let's see. under my thigh, and show loving commitment and truth to me. Please do not bury me in Mitzrayim, in Egypt. But I shall lie with my fathers, and you shall take me up out of Mitzrayim and bury me in their burial place. And he said, I do as you have said. And he said, swear to me. And he swore to him. And Israel bowed himself on the head of the bed. And after these events, it came to be 48. And after these events, it came to be that it was said to Joseph, see, your father is sick. And he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Jacob was told, see, your son Joseph is coming to you. And Israel strengthened himself, Israel, strengthened himself and sat up on the bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, El Shaddai appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me and said to me, see, I am making you fruitful and shall increase you and make of you an assembly of peoples and give this land to your seed after you as an everlasting possession. And now your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Mitzrayim before I came to you in Mitzrayim, are mine, as Reuben and Shimeon. They are mine. Your offspring, whom you shall bring forth after them, are yours, and let them be called by the name of their brothers in their inheritance. So basically, and a few portions back, it explained how Joseph was the firstborn of Jacob's favored wife, Rachel. And that's why Joseph is getting the firstborn blessing instead of Reuben, plus then also what all those older boys did to lose their place. But Joseph was his favorite. And so Joseph got the firstborn blessing, but not Joseph, his two sons. And but then all the sons after Ephraim and Manasseh, those were Joseph's sons for Joseph's inheritance. But Ephraim and Manasseh became Jacob's sons. So, your offspring, whom you shall bring forth after them, are yours, and let them be called by the name of their brothers in their inheritance. And when I came from Padan, Rahel died beside me in the land of Canaan on the way when there was but a little distance to go to Ephrath. And I buried her there on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And Israel saw Joseph's sons and said, who are these? And Joseph said to his father, they are my sons, whom Elohim has given me in this place. And he said, please bring them to me and let me bless them. And the eyes of Israel were dim with age, and he was unable to see. And he drew them near, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, I had not thought to see your face, but see, Elohim has also shown me your seed. So Joseph brought them from between his knees, and he bowed down with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim with his right hand towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand towards Israel's right hand, and brought them near him. And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, consciously directing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, the Elohim before whom my fathers Abraham and YHWH walked, Abraham and Isaac, the Elohim who has fed me all my life long to this day, the messenger who has redeemed me from all evil, bless the youths, and let my name be called upon them, and the name of my fathers, Abraham and YHWH, Abraham and Isaac, and let them increase to a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it was evil in his eyes, and he took hold of his father's hand and removed it from the head of Ephraim to the head of Manasseh. And Joseph said to his father, not so, my father, for this one is the firstborn, but your right hand is on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also becomes a people, and he is also great, and yet his younger brother is greater than he, and his seed is to become the completeness of the nations. I love that. Where'd it go? There it is. And his seed is to become the completeness of the nations. And he blessed them on that day, saying, in you, Israel shall bless, saying, Elohim, make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. Thus he put Ephraim before Manasseh. And Israel said to Joseph, see, I am dying, but Elohim shall be with you and bring you back to the land of your fathers. And I have given to you one portion above your brothers, which I took from the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow. 49. And Jacob called his sons and said, gather together, so that I declare to you that what is to befall you in the last days. Gather yourself and hear, you sons of Jacob, and listen to Israel, your father. I'm sorry. It just, I wish I could figure out a rhyme and a reason why they didn't just keep calling him Israel after his name was changed, why they keep bouncing back and forth. I know there's probably a reason, because nothing is random in the word. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my power, and the beginning of my strength, an excellency of exaltation, and exceeding excellency of power. Boiling like water, you do not excel, because you went up to your father's bed and then defiled it. He went up to my couch. So that's Reuben's. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Their weapons are implements of violence. Let my being not enter their council. Let my esteem not be united to their assembly, because they killed a man in their displeasure, and they lamed an ox in pleasure. Wow. Cursed be their displeasure, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. Wow. These are interesting, prophetic blessings over the 12 tribes. Wow. And Levi, interestingly. And, this, as it proves true, Levi's, the tribe of Levi is a tribe of violence, but in the future, they violently protect the tabernacle. So, and it's counted in their favor as a blessing. So anyway, okay. Let me, curse, okay. You, Yehuda, your brothers praise you. Your hand is on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children bow down before you. Yehuda is a lion's cub. From the prey you have gone up, my son. He bowed down and he crouched like a lion, and like a lion, who does rouse him? The scepter shall not turn aside from Yehuda, nor an inscriber from between his feet, until Shiloh comes, and to him is the obedience of peoples. So this is basically saying that out of the tribe of Judah, he will be, the kings will come from the tribe of Judah. The scepter shall not turn aside from Judah, meaning all the kings shall come from Judah. But nor an inscriber from between his feet. Now that I've got to look up, because I don't get that big question mark there. Until Shiloh comes. Shiloh is Yeshua, Jesus, until Jesus comes, and to him is the obedience of peoples. Binding his donkey to the vine and his donkey's colt to the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine and his robes in the blood of grapes. Wow, this is going to take some deep digging. These are interesting. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. Zebulun dwells at the seashore. He is for a haven for ships, and his border is unto Sidon. Issachar is a strong donkey lying down between two burdens. And he saw that a resting place was good, and that the land was pleasant, and he inclined his shoulder to bear a burden and became a subject to slave labor. Interesting. Dan rightly rules, and that's Dan means judge. So Dan rightly rules his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan is a serpent by the way, an adder by the path that bites the horse's heels so that its rider falls backwards. Interesting. I have waited for your deliverance, O YHWH, Yahuwah. Gad, a raiding band raids him, but he raids its heel. Bread from Asher is rich, and he gives delicacies of a sovereign. Naphtali is a deer let loose. He gives words of elegance. Yosef is an offshoot of a fruit-bearing tree, an offshoot of a fruit-bearing tree by a fountain. His branches run over a wall. And the archers have bitterly grieved him, shot at him, and hated him. But his bow remained in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob, of Jacob. From there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Interesting. So from Joseph, the shepherd, the stone of Israel. From the El of your father who helps you, and by the Almighty who blesses you with blessings of the heavens from above, blessings of the deep that lies beneath, and blessings of the breasts and of the womb. The blessings of your father have excelled, and blessings of my ancestors up to the limit of the everlasting hills. They are the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him who was separated from his brothers. This is going to be interesting digging into all of this. It's a short thing, but I think it's going to be a long research and study. Benaim is the wolf that tears. In the morning, he eats prey, and at night, he divides the spoil. All of these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and that is what their father spoke to them, and he blessed them, and he blessed each one according to his own blessing. And he commanded them, and he said to them, I am to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephraim the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephraim the Hittite as a possession for a burial site. There they buried Abraham and Sarah, his wife. There they buried Yitzhak and Rivkah, Isaac and Rachel, his wife. And there I buried Leah. The field purchased and the cave which is in them is from the sons of Heth. And when Jacob ended commanding his sons, he drew his feet up into the bed. He breathed his last breath and was gathered to his people. Man, what a way to go. You know, one, to have foreknowledge, not being a shock, surprise, or accident. And two, just peacefully drawing your feet up, laying out on your bed, and like, good night. What a blessing. What a blessing. We could all pray that we and our loved ones, that's the way we exit this planet, this space and time. 50. And Joseph fell on his father's face and wept over him and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. So the physicians embalmed Jacob. And 40 days were completed for him, for so are completed the days of embalming. And the Mitzrayites wept for him 70 days. And when the days of weeping for him were past, Joseph spoke to the household of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found favor in your eyes, please speak in the hearing of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, See, I am dying. Bury me in my burial site, which I dug for myself in the land of Canaan. And now, please, let me go up and bury my father and return. And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury your father. And he made you swear. And Joseph went up to bury his father. And with him went all the servants of Pharaoh and the elders of his house and all the elders of the land of Mitzrayim. And all the house of Joseph and his brothers and his father's house, only their little ones and their flocks and their herds they left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan, and they lamented there with a great and very heavy lamentation. And he performed 7 days of mourning for his father. I guess that's what they now go Shiva, go sit Shiva with mourning. the Jews. The Jew, that's a Jewish tradition, I guess. I've seen. So, okay. And his sons did to him as he had commanded them, for his sons brought him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, which Abraham bought with the field from Ephraim the Hittite as property for a burial site. And after he had buried his father, Joseph returned to Mitzrayim. Joseph returned to Egypt. And he and his brothers and all went up with him to bury his father. And when Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "What if Joseph hates us and pays us back for all the evil which we did to him?" And they sent word to Joseph saying, "Before your father died, he commanded, saying, 'This is what you are to say to Joseph. I beg you, please forgive the transgression of your brothers and their sins, for they did evil to you. And now please forgive the transgression of the servants of Elohim of your father.' And Joseph wept when they spoke to him. And his brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, 'See, we are your servants.' And Joseph said to them, 'Do not fear, for I am in the place of Elohim.'" And this is spoke to me so greatly, in that whatever we're going through, and in my 60 years, I've gone through a lot of stuff. Some of it definitely self-imposed, just walking in the way and the Father bringing correction. Others, well, I think all of it was used for his purpose, to bring, growth, correction, understanding, depth. But if we could always just keep in mind, when we're going through our daily stuff and stuff doesn't happen the way we want it to, or even tragedy strikes, if we understand that if we have given ourselves to the Father completely, then whatever comes our way is ordained by the sovereign King of the universe, our Creator. And if we trust him, then whatever it is that comes our way, yes, even tragedy, is by his hand for his purpose. And if we could learn to understand that in our hearts, it helps, I think, to endure. And what does it say throughout? He who endures till the end will be saved. Because it is hard. Life is hard. So, and you intended evil against me, but Elohim intended it for good, in order to do it as it is this day, to keep a great many people alive. Isn't that right there? And if we could understand that what the enemy intends to break us, our Father intends to grow us, and to, it's always about preservation of life, to keep a great many people alive. So, and now do not fear, I provide for you and your little ones. So he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. And Joseph dwelled in Mitzrayim, he and his father's household. And Joseph lived 110 years. And Joseph saw Ephraim's children to the third generation. Isn't that awesome? He was able to see his great-grandchildren. Were also born, the children of, to the third generation. The children of Machir, son of Manasseh, were also born on Joseph's knee. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am dying, but Elohim shall certainly visit you and bring you out of this land, to the land of which he swore to Abraham and to Isaac, to Yatzeg, and to Jacob. And Joseph made the children of Israel swear, saying, Elohim shall certainly visit you, and you shall bring up my bones from here. And Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was placed in a coffin. It's in Mitzrayim, in Egypt. So what faith? He knew, and he let them know that you will go to the promised land, and please take me there with you. So next week we start Exodus, Shemoth. All right, Haftorah is 1 Kings 2, 1 through 12. So, and in the days of David, so it's talking about King David, in the days of David drew near to die, and he commanded Solomon, his son, saying,
I am going the way of all the earth, and you shall be strong and be a man, and guard the charge of YHWH of Yahuwah, your Elohim, to walk in his ways, to guard his laws, his commands, his right rulings, and his witnesses, as it is written in the Torah of Moshe. I mean, this is right here. This is what we're commanded to do. So that you do wisely all that you do, and wherever you turn, so that Yahuwah, YHWH, does establish his word which he spoke concerning me, saying, if your sons guard their ways to walk before me in truth with all their heart and with all their being, saying, there is not to cease a man of yours on the throne of Israel. And also, you know that Joab, son of Teshruya did to me, and what he did to the two commanders of the armies of Israel, to Abner, son of Ner. Wait a minute. How? Oh yeah, okay. And to Amas, son of Yether, and he killed them, and shed their blood of battle in peace, and put the blood of battle on his belt that was around his waist, and on the sandals that were on his feet. So act according to your wisdom, and do not let his gray hair go down to Sheol in peace, but show loving commitment to the sons of Barzillai, the Galadite, and let them be among those who eat at your table, for so they came to me when I fled from Absalom, your brother. And see that you, and see with you is Simeon of Gera, and the Benamite from Barim, who cursed me with grievous cursing in the day when I went to Mahanaim. But he came down to meet me at the Jordan, and I swore to him by Yahuwah, saying, I shall not put you to death with the sword. And now do not leave him unpunished, for you are a wise man and know what you should do with him. You shall bring his gray hair down to Sheol with blood. And David slept with his fathers, and was buried in the city of David. And the days that David reigned over Israel were 40 years, and he reigned 7 years in Hebron, and in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years. And Solomon, sat on the throne of his father David, and his reign was firmly established. 1 through 12. There we go. And now we go to the Gospels. Luke 4. 31 through 5:11. 11. Luke 4:31. And he came down to Kephar Nahim, the city of Galilee. I don't know all of the translations, so I do my best. Sorry, I'm learning. And was teaching them on the Sabbaths. So we're in Luke. And what? They're teaching the word on the Sabbaths. You should still be keeping the traditional seventh-day Sabbath. And they were astonished at his teaching, for his word was with authority. And in the congregation was a man having a spirit of an unclean demon, and he cried out with a loud voice, saying, Ha! What have you to do with us, you Yeshua of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth? Did you come to destroy us? I know you, who you are, the set-apart one of Elohim. And Yeshua rebuked him, saying, Be silenced and come out of him. And when the demon had thrown him in the midst, it came out of him without hurting him. And astonishment came on all. They spoke to each other, saying, What is this word that with authority and power he commands the unclean spirits, and they come out? And the report about him went out into every place of the neighborhood. And rising up from the congregation, he went into the house of Simeon. But the mother-in-law of, Simon Peter. But the mother-in-law of Simon was sick with a severe inflammation And they asked him concerning her. And standing over her, he rebuked the inflammation and left her, and instantly rising up, she served them. Wow, I love that. And when the sun was setting, all who were sick with various diseases brought them to him, and he laid his hands on each one of them, and he healed them. Did I pass? No. And also demons were coming out of many, crying and saying, "You are the Messiah, the Son of Elohim." And rebuking them, he did not allow them to speak, for they knew that he was the Messiah. And when day came, he went out and proceeded to a lonely place. He often went off by himself. And this is good. I mean, we're supposed to walk in the ways of Messiah. So do you make it a point to spend time in the secret place? To go off by yourself and spend time with him. It's something that the Father's really placed on my heart that I need to be doing and doing more often. But the crowds were seeking him and came to him and tried to keep him from leaving them. And he said to them, to the other cities, I also have to bring the good news, the reign of Elohim, because for this I have been sent. And he was proclaiming in the congregation of Galilee. 5. And it came to be, while the crowd was pressing upon him to hear the words of Elohim, that he stood by the lake of Gennesaret. And he saw 2 boats standing by the lake, but the fishermen had gone from them and were washing their nets. And he entered into one of the boats, which belonged to Simon Peter, and he asked him to pull away from the land. And he sat down and was teaching the crowds from the boat. And when he ceased speaking, he said to Simon, "Pull out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch." And Simon said to him, "Master, we have toiled all night and caught none, but at your word I shall let down the net." And when they did so, they caught a great number of fish, and their net was breaking. And they mentioned to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and they filled both boats so that they were sinking. And when Simon Peter, saw it, he fell down at the knees of Yeshua, saying, "Depart from me, for I am a man, a sinner, O Master." For astonishment had seized him and all those with him at the catch of the fish which they took. So too were Jacob, which was later translated to James, which I found. So his name's Jacob and John. So James and John, the brothers, sons of Zebedee. It's Jacob and John. King James, in England, the King James version, he wanted his name in the Bible, so he changed Jacob's, Jesus's brother. Or no, this isn't Jesus's brother. James and John, but there's another James, but he changed. So like the book of James is actually Jesus's brother. Should have been the book of Jacob or Jacob. Anyway, so too were Jacob and Johanna, the sons of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. When Yeshua said to Simon, "Do not fear, for now on you shall catch men. From now on you shall catch men." And having brought the boats to land, they left all and followed him. Can you imagine? You're doing your thing, you're doing your job, and then you hear this man teaching, and he says, "Follow me," and you just like drop everything. Wow. Just wow. Okay. Next is Acts 7, 15 and 16. Okay. Come on. There it is. Acts 7, 15 and 16. And Jacob went down to Mitzrayim and died, and he and our fathers, and they were brought over to Shechem and laid in the tomb of Abraham, bought for the piece of silver from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem. And Hebrews 11, 21 and 22. By belief, Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each of the sons of Joseph. So Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each of the sons of Joseph and died and did reverence on top of his staff. By belief, Joseph, when he was dying, made mention of the outgoing of the children of Israel and gave orders concerning his bones. And 1 Peter 1, 3 through 9. Hey, I'm going to be able to read all of them today. 1 Peter 1, 3 through 9. Blessed by Elohim, the Father of our Master, Yeshua Messiah, who according to his great compassion has caused us to be born again to a living expectation through the resurrection of Yeshua Messiah from the dead, to an inheritance incorruptible and undefiled and unfading, having been kept in the heavens for you, who are protected by the power of Elohim through belief for a deliverance ready to be revealed in the last time, in which you exalted, even though for a little while, if need be, you have been grieved by manifold trials, in order that the proving of your belief, here as I was just talking about, know that what's happening is for our good and that it's to try us, to make us, those who endure till the end will be saved. So in order that the proving of your belief, much more precious than gold, than that perishes and proven by fire, might be found to result in praise and respect and esteem at the revelation of Yeshua Messiah, whom having not seen you love, in whom you exalt with unspeakable and esteemed joy, yet not seeing you believe, obtaining the goal of your belief, a deliverance of lives. And then 1 Peter 2, 11 through 17. This one's all marked up. Here we go, 11 through 17. Beloved ones, I appeal to you as sojourners and pilgrims to abstain from fleshly lusts which battle against the being, having your behavior among the nations good, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, let them by observing your good works esteem Elohim in a day of visitation. Be sure to every institution of be subject to every institution of man because of the master, whether to the sovereign as supreme. Ooh, big question mark there. Or to the governors as to those who are sent by him for punishment of doers of evil and praise for those who do good. Because such is the desire of Elohim that by doing good you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish men, as free, yet not using your freedom as a cloak for evil, but as servants of Elohim. Respect all, love the brotherhood, fear Elohim, respect the sovereign. So, like these past 4 years, people having a really hard time respecting our president, or in the next 4 years, also, there's a lot of people that don't respect the president. But here it's saying that we are subject to every institution of man because of the master, whether to the sovereign as supreme, or to the governors, or to those who are sent by him for punishment of doers of evil and a praise to those who do good. Because such is the desire of Elohim that by doing good you should put silence to the ignorance of foolish men, as free, not yet using your freedom as a cloak for evil, but as a servant of Elohim. Respect all, love the brotherhood, fear Elohim, and respect the sovereign, meaning respect our leader, even if we don't like him. So that is all of, wow, we got through all of it this week, which is awesome. Now, if you, like I said, if you are reading the extra biblical books, Jubilees 45:13 through 46:15, Jasher 56:1 through 59:28, and Josephus book 2, chapter 8, verse 194. They've got weird numbers in there. Through chapter 2, book 2, chapter 8 to 200. So with that, Father God, thank you so much that we were able to get through all of this today. Bless everyone who hears this. Give them a deep desire to follow after you with all of their heart, mind, body, soul, strength, and spirit. Let Draw their hearts in so that you are the top priority, and learning your word and your ways is our top priority, Father. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to live in a place where we can read your word freely. And thank you for bringing truth and helping us to decipher and learn through your word and to know you and to walk with you and to walk in covenant with you and to prepare ourselves for the return of your son, Yeshua HaMashiach. In Yeshua's mighty name. Amen. All right. Have a great week. If you read on these and you have any insights or anything, please share. If you want information about our women's Bible study, where we go through the Torah portions, and then on Thursdays have a call where we all talk about what the Father has shown us through the week as we've been studying, let me know and I can get you the link to that. And with that, be blessed. We'll see you next week.